Welcome to the WiseTake DFS podcast, sponsored by the hottest team in the DFS industry, Daily Roto Sharks. If you want to be prepared for your DFS slates every night, you need to join the hashtag Sheet Squad movement. Check it out by clicking the link in the description below. I am your host, CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I'm joined, as usual, by WiseTake podcast regular and Daily Roto Sharks contributor, writer of Matt's Stacks, Matt Amon, a.k.a. at Matt Amon123. Matt, how we doing today?
I'm doing a lot better since my guy Mike Trout just hit a home run.
Ooh,
oh, my goodness. Oh, no. But Antonio Senzatella just got an easy ground ball hit back to him for an easy double play, and he threw it into center field.
Man,
So yeah, you win some and you lose some.
Yeah, that's just the nature of the beast. I did not have a good day. You know, I had a lot of Toronto, but it's like the way that they scored their runs, aside from Pierce's home run, was just lame, dude. Like a lot of walks, a lot of singles, I've never seen somebody score that much runs and like produce that little fantasy points.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, I did have a lot of Mets, but I just didn't have. I didn't have it, and DeGrom got blown up. I didn't go too heavy on DeGrom. I just was scared off by the total, but I did play him a little bit. He got tagged. Well, he didn't do that bad, but he didn't get the strikeouts, and he gave up some runs, so that was rough. But Carrasco did okay. I think Robbie Ray, dude, wow. Robbie Ray. Oh, my gosh. That was just...
He can do that, man. He can strike people out. When he's on, he can strike out anybody.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. You just don't think it's going to come against the Washington Nationals. But you know what? I mean, we've seen the Mets pitchers like Thor. We've seen DeGrom. We've seen these guys strike those guys out. So we know they strike out. Yeah. But, man, that was... And, that was the ultimate contrarian play. He was like probably the best pitcher that everybody overlooked just because of the matchup. Like, he's good. On any other slate, we see him Chalk City against the Padres, against whatever other team. He's Chalk City. But against the Nationals, man, nobody wants to go against those Nats ever since that 20-run game or whatever, man.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, they're good, but they're human like anybody else.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we have a funky little, we got two slates tomorrow, so they're kind of funky. We got an early game with some weather problems. We got some night games with some weather problems. So, we're gonna go and try to tackle this slate by slate. You want to get started?
Yeah, let's get started. I'm gonna do my best to focus on this podcast 100%, not keep looking at the games.
And I'm going to do my best to stay awake because I am exhausted.
Yeah.
All right, so we got Ivan Nova of the Pittsburgh Pirates visiting Tim Adelman of the Cincinnati Reds. I do believe that I know Matt's a DraftKings guy, but he looked at the game anyway real quick. But I think you mentioned on DraftKings this game is not included on the early slate, correct?
Yeah, I guess they were doing me a favor and not making me wake up extra early to go over Ivan Nova versus Tim Adelman, which I appreciate. So I'll just get right into it. I'm just going to say it like 10 times on this podcast today so everyone's sure to just look at the weather, a million times tomorrow. This is one of the games that has a decent chance of raining out. I would say this game might be 50-50 to rain out. But if it plays, maybe I have a little interest in Ivan Nova because he's been really, really good his last two starts. But the Reds don't strike out a lot. It is, of course, a hitter's park. So that makes me a little iffy, but this morning slate doesn't have a whole lot of pitching. So if you want to pivot off Max Scherzer for some reason, then, maybe you could go to Ivan Nova, but I don't think I would do it. And then I don't have any interest in Adelman. And then on the bat side, I don't know. The weather's just a little bit too bad with the wind blowing in to where I don't really want to stack these guys up. And I think there's just better spots in some of the other games.
Yeah, with the weather, you're right. It's not the best spot, but I wouldn't mind playing the bats here. You know how I am on Vegas lines, and I'm a little surprised that Nova, as well as he's pitched, he's only a 114 favorite. Now, he is on the road, and it is a getaway day, so I guess that adds to it. But I think I like the bats here. I'm going to follow the line movement, obviously, if the game plays, but... Yeah, obviously, Matt, I play primarily on FanDuel, as you know, so it's going to be hard for me to pivot off of Scherzer, and if I do, I think there might be maybe one or two other guys that I would prefer just because of the ballpark. That's pretty much it. It's not that I don't think Nova's, I think Nova's probably he is like you said one of the better pitchers on the slate. But that ballpark, man, we saw. I think both their games have gone over the total by pretty far. So I'm gonna be interested in the bats here. I think, assuming the game plays.
Yeah, and there's definitely one other pitcher I like a lot better that we'll get to.
For sure. All right, we got Braden Shipley of the Arizona Diamondbacks visiting One-Eyed Max Scherzer, Mad Max of the Washington Nationals.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think this game is pretty easy to break down. Brandon Shipley's not Robbie Ray. He's not going to strike the Nationals out. The Nationals are going to score a bunch of runs because they're really good. So play the Nationals. And then Max is really good. He strikes a lot of people out. Arizona strikes out a lot, so play Max. It's pretty simple.
I love.
I mean, the only problem is you can't play Max and the Nationals because they're both so expensive. So you kind of have to choose on this slate. So I mean, if I'm doing 50 teams, I'm going to do 25 of each. But if I was had to pick, I would probably pick the Nationals bats here, just because Max does give up home runs, and the Arizona does have some guys that can hit the ball. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me at all to see a Jake Lamb solo shot here. Paul Goldschmidt, 2 hits, and they have some guys that can hit. So if I'm choosing the bats, but I'm gonna have some Max Scherzer also.
I love the analysis. He's like, yeah, so sure, the Nats are gonna score runs because they're good. Scherzer's gonna get strikeouts because he's good.
Yeah. I mean, I know people want me to sit here and be like, hey, Bryce Harper has a 420 ISO against righties. But, people just don't even need to know that. It's like, we know Bryce Harper's good. He hits the ball hard. We know Daniel Murphy's good. He hits the ball hard. Ryan Zimmerman's good. Trey Turner's good. It's like, we don't need to get into that.
That's a good point. I'm with you. I like it. Yeah, I'm not really interested in Shipley. I don't know too much about him. I do like the Nats bats a lot. They got embarrassed today from Robbie Ray. Even though they won the game, they did strike out a ton, and I'm sure that no MLB team likes to strike out more than 8 times, 9 times, or whatever it was. So, yeah, I think the Nats bats are a good call for sure. I love Scherzer. It's going to be really hard for me to get off of Scherzer just because he has the most upside. Now, I do think I'm with you on the one-offs here. I don't necessarily want to stack Arizona, but I might pick on him a little bit. We talked a little bit before the show, and we both agreed that while Scherzer is strikeout dominant to righties, he can once in a while give up a home run or two. We've seen him do that. So I love Scherzer, but I'll take Scherzer and I'll take a Jake Lamb. I'll take a Peralta. Probably not Herman, even though he went deep today. But yeah, I don't mind taking one of these lefties, or maybe even a Goldschmidt or something like that, just because the Diamondbacks are going to be completely underowned. And it's something that we've talked about before with guys like Ben about taking a pitcher and then stacking hitters against him, just because you're going to get the Ks, but he's going to give up a home run. So yeah, I think that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's not much more to add than what you said. I pretty much agree with you. Danny Salazar of the Cleveland Indians visiting Michael Fulmer of the Detroit Tigers. Looks like we have a little bit more weather concerns here. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say this game is very, very unlikely to play. I'd say less than 5%. But with the weather being atrocious, if this game somehow does play, it's tough though, because it's like both pitchers are good, but both of the other teams scare me a little bit. Yeah. I don't think I'd want to play Michael Fulmer against a Cleveland team that's really good that doesn't strike out. And I don't think I'd want to play Danny Salazar, although I'd be more tempted there because the strikeout rate's so high. Right. But he has such control issues, and it's like, do you really want to take him against, Detroit? I don't know. I might not want to, so I'm kind of hoping this game just does rain out so I don't have to make those sorts of decisions. Yeah. So I think it's good to just leave it at that.
Yeah. I'm with you. I wouldn't be. My feelings would not be hurt. What happened?
Oh, this Heredia guy just made an over-the-wall catch to rob Simmons of a home run. Ooh. It is a great catch. Really good.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm with you. If this game rains out, my feelings won't be hurt. I can tell you that. If the game stays, though, I prefer Salazar over Fulmer just because, like what you said, the Tigers do strike out a little bit more. Now, I've noticed the Tigers aren't striking out as much as they did last year with even with guys. Cause I think it's because they actually have lefties. I remember last year, Scherzer had a game with 16 strikes, some crazy number of strikeouts. And it was
Mm-hmm.
because the Tigers had the audacity to put an all right-handed lineup out there. So they
Right.
have lefties for sure. Victor Martinez, we know they've had him for a while, but now they have a real lefty like Tyler Collins and what's the other guy's name? Aducci or something like that.
Aducci, yeah.
Aducci.
Aducci scaring us off.
Aducci. I always tell you, it always sounds like that movie, Arriva Derci. Aducci.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But yeah, I prefer Salazar. I prefer if this game plays, I'd much rather take Salazar than Nova. But that's not saying much because the Tigers can't hit Salazar, and like you said, he's got control problems. But he's as of right now, assuming the game plays, I do have interest in him. But I also have interest in the bats on both these sides. So it's kind of weird, the whole slate in general. Let's see. We got Jarrell Cotton of the Oakland Athletics visiting Kyle Gibson of the Minnesota Twins. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, it's interesting. This game has good weather all the way around, which is good. No way you're playing Kyle Gibson because he stinks and he doesn't strike people out. Jarrell Cotton is a little bit more interesting. He seems like he's a good, talented pitcher. The strikeout rate hasn't quite been there yet. So I don't know if I can go there here. I don't think I can, but he's been just good enough that maybe I'm not interested in Minnesota. But I have something inside me telling me that Minnesota is still in a decent spot here. So I actually really have interest in the bats here, especially Oakland against Kyle Gibson, who, like I said, is not very good.
Yeah.
So I love, I always love Chris Davis on Oakland, but I especially like him here. And then, like I said, I do kind of like Minnesota. So, your Doziers and your Sano's. Sano's been killing the ball, and Max Kepler and Robbie Grossman. I think Kenny's Vargas had a really good game today, so I could go there too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Cotton I think has the potential one day to be something decent, but he's still young. He's still gonna make those mistakes. The Twins are swinging the bats really well, so yeah, I'm with you. I like the bats in both these games. I definitely don't like Kyle Gibson, and this is a rare situation where I think you can kind of go after the A's a little bit. Like I know it's still Minnesota's ballpark, which isn't the best for hitting, but it's still a lot better than the Oakland's ballpark for hitting. So a tiny, tiny, tiny park bump for him. And Kyle Gibson is just not good. So yeah, he's had his games, but overall he's not any good. So yeah, give me all the Chris Davis, Matt Joyce if you're looking for value with Scherzer out there. I'll take some Matt Joyce. He should be higher in the lineup. Yeah.
Yonder Alonso.
Yeah. Alonso went yard today, matter of fact. So yeah, give him to me. I like the bats for sure. It's ugly. You're gonna have to play plays you're not comfortable with. If you're gonna play Scherzer, you're gonna have to look at these kind of games to find your guys because it's ugly. It is, especially if we lose a game here. So, all right. We got AJ Griffin of the Texas Rangers visiting Joe Musgrove of the Houston Astros. Go ahead, Matt.
This is another spot where maybe if you're stacking up the Nationals, you can close your eyes and click one of these two pitchers. I don't think I'm going to do it. I like the bats much more in this game than the pitchers. If I had to choose one, I'd choose Musgrove just because I believe in his talent a little bit more than AJ Griffin. But like I said, I'm much more on the bats here. I think both teams can swing the bats. I could definitely see an 8-6 game here. So, like I said, yeah, I like all the bats in this game. Texas has a lot of power lefties that can take advantage of Musgrove, and then AJ Griffin's a fly ball pitcher that gives up home runs. So all the big boppers from Houston.
Yeah, what do you see for weather? Because I see the wind blowing in from left about 17 miles an hour.
It is, but I just feel like if the wind is blowing at a decent clip, which it looks like it will be, I would assume they'll close the roof.
Oh, good point. Very good point. I always forget which parks have the roofs, man.
Yeah.
I'm real bad.
Yeah, but certainly it's something to look because it's been kind of, I think in the last 4 days they've had like 2 open days and 2 closed days. So yeah, keep an eye out here. But it's kind of like if the roof is closed, there's no wind. But if it's open, you kind of get the advantage of, the roof is open, which I always feel like is a little better for hitters.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's probably fairly neutral either way.
Yeah. With that said, yeah, I like the bats here. I told you before the show, I can't stand AJ Griffin. There's been spots in the past where like you had to play him because the slate was so ugly, and I just refused to play him, and I would just lose. And so if he's the guy you have to play today, which I doubt, I'm going to lose because I'm not playing AJ Griffin. I don't like the guy. I'll admit that he's not terrible. If you look at his numbers, it's so tempting to go against him. You see the the fly ball rate. It's just so tempting to go against the guy. But once in a while he has a pretty good game. So Either way, yeah, I like the bats on both sides. I think Musgrove is interesting, but I just don't want to do it against this Texas team. They got too many power lefties. So
Yep, I agree.
for show. All right, we got.
I agree.
All right, Derek Holland, the lefty from the Chicago White Sox, visiting Ian Kennedy of the Kansas City Royals. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, this is where I'm probably going to get my pitching from if I'm not going to max. Ian Kennedy's definitely my second favorite pitcher on this slate. He has a decent strikeout rate. We love the ballpark. It looks like the wind's going to be blowing in at a pretty decent clip. We know the White Sox are right-handed and they struggle against righties. So, and they did again tonight against Nate Carnes. So I really like Ian Kennedy here, and it's another reason why I kind of like the Nationals bats, because I think if I go Kennedy and somebody else, I can afford them, and I like that on this slate. So I like Kennedy a lot, and then I also can see Holland, just because the Royals are the worst offense in baseball this year, and like I said, the ballpark's great for pitchers, and the wind's blowing in, and he's been a lot better this year than he's been in the past. So he's really doing a decent job of preventing runs. So yeah, I like both the pitchers in this game. I like Ian Kennedy a lot more just because he's more talented, and then because of all that, I really don't have any interest in the bats in this game.
I could get funky with the Royals bats here, man. Sal Perez, I mean,
You can get funky with them.
yeah, I think I could. I can get funky with it. I don't think Holland's any good. You're right. He's off to a better start this year. And
He's not.
what's that?
I said he's not good, but the Royals are just worse.
The Royals are bad. They are bad. But they still got me like, listen, when they won the World Series, they still have some of these guys like Kane, Hosmer, Perez, Gordon. Like, they're not the greatest by any stretch, but I don't mind them. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna go crazy, but I think a one-off with Kane or Perez, I think you can do something good. Just because Holland doesn't scare me. But yeah, you're right about the ballpark. Horrible ballpark. There's definitely options that appear to be better. And you're right about I'm interested in Kennedy for sure. I don't love him, but yeah, I could see that if you want to be able to afford the Nats comfortably and just take all the bats you want, then you're gonna have to you need a cheap guy, and Kennedy could be that guy. He gets the K's done. With that said, if I decide to play Kennedy, which I don't know if I'll get off Scherzer, but if I do decide to get off Scherzer, I'm gonna have a couple hedge stacks with these White Sox because I've seen it too many times when a pitcher, like a right-handed pitcher or a left-handed pitcher, has a big amount of strikeouts one day and people miss the boat, and then the next day they hop on, and then all of a sudden for some reason it just doesn't work out that way. So I wouldn't be surprised if the White Sox got a little bit to Kennedy. So yeah, I'm kind of iffy on the game. I definitely don't like it. What we got? Okay. Next game, we got Zach Eflin. I don't understand how this guy is not getting blown up every start. Going up against John Lackey of the Chicago Cubs. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, he's doing a decent enough job not getting blown up. I'm certainly not going to pitch him because his strikeout rate's not high enough and the Cubs are too good. But the wind is blowing in enough for me probably not to like the Cubs stack in this spot. And this is another spot to pay attention to rain. I think this game plays, but it is going to be really cold, 45 degrees, and the wind blowing in 22 miles an hour. And we know that's a big deal in Chicago. So for that reason, I'm off of the Cubs bats, even though Eflin is terrible. And then I do have some interest in John Lackey here just because the Phillies aren't very good. And Lackey does have an okay strikeout rate. He hasn't been very good this year, but I think I would put him as my third favorite pitcher on the slate behind Scherzer and Kennedy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I Eflin, man, eventually he's gonna start getting rocked. It's gonna happen eventually. It might not happen here though, and I think that the Cubs are gonna garner a lot of ownership because when people look at Eflin's numbers, just like when I look at his numbers, I see a gas can. I see a guy that I want to target. I see a guy that is going to give up a lot of homers. But he hasn't been the case, and he draws himself another decent matchup when you consider the weather. Mother Nature is on his side. You got the wind blowing in, like you said, 20-something miles an hour. It's a big park. When the wind is blowing in, it's a huge park. When the wind is blowing out, it's a small park. So it's going to be, like you said, it's cold. It's not very good hitting weather. So while I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cubs put up a couple runs, it's going to be difficult. I don't think we're going to see as many home runs. So yeah, I think the Cubs might garner some of the ownership. They might take some of the ownership away from the Nats a little bit. I think the Nats are going to be popular, but I think the Cubs will be, right up there, if not more popular. So, yeah, I think that the Cubs will be an interesting, depending on the weather. If these winds change, if that total comes out super high, then forget about it. But if that total comes out low, which I expect because of this weather, I wouldn't mind fading the Cubs. I mean, it could be a horrible take, but this whole slate is terrible, so you're gonna have to try something wacky. It's like.
Absolutely.
If you're playing on FanDuel, that's pretty much it for the early slate. If you're playing on DraftKings, however, they do have this mid afternoon, so there's one more game we have to get through. So we're going to talk about it. We got Kyle Freeland, the lefty from the Colorado Rockies, visiting Luis Perdomo of the San Diego Padres. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I think this is a fairly easy game to break down. I don't have any interest in Freeland or Perdomo. They're both ground ball pitchers that don't really strike anybody out. So I couldn't really see myself going there, but they're both not very good. I think Freeland's a little better, so I'm not thrilled about San Diego. Will Myers is a one-off if you wanted to. And then Perdomo, I think, is bad enough to where I do like the Rockies here a fair bit. We know Petco is a pitcher's park, but not as much during the daytime. So I do have some interest in the Rockies, who are going bananas tonight, 10 runs through 6 innings. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hitters in both, but I think you had mentioned that Freeland had a pretty good game against the Padres and Coors, and
yes.
we see that situation too many times. I can see people that are maybe.
No, he had a bad. Never mind. No, he had a bad game.
Oh, he had a bad game.
6 runs in 4 innings.
Ah, okay. Well, I still like the Padre bats. I don't really play on DraftKings for baseball, not yet anyway, I should say, but yeah, if so FanDuel doesn't really have this game unless you're playing all day. But if you're playing this game, yeah, I like the bats on both sides. It's a big ballpark. People always overlook this ballpark, but like you said, during the day it's a little better. And both teams have guys. Yeah, okay, they're not the greatest, but they can hit home runs, and these pitchers are very conducive to home runs. So, yeah, I'm with you. I definitely like the bats on both sides for sure. So we talked a little bit. This early slate is just. It's just ugly, man. And the night slate's not much better, unfortunately. I mean,
it's all right. It's not that bad. You got some options. You got some interesting stuff to think about. You got Max Scherzer. You have the Nationals, who are in a great spot. I like Houston a lot. I think Oakland could be sneaky. And then, like I said, I really like Ian Kennedy, and I think John Lackey's fine. So I think you have enough to work with to make it a fun tournament slate. So I wouldn't be too down on it.
I hope the Reds game plays, because I think now the more I think about it, those are the bats that I think I'm going to want. Mm-hmm. Just because when a combination of pricing and ballpark and whatnot, and especially if the weather's rough enough, we could see people stay away from it. And it's weird, but the Reds and the Pirates have not really been that high owned, and I haven't played them all that much. I play the Reds a lot, but I haven't really played the Pirates, and they've both been putting up runs. Today it was the Reds, not the Pirates, but for some reason I don't know how games in this ballpark go overlooked, but somehow they do, I guess. But yeah, I think it's gonna come down to the Nats or the Cubs. Like the Nats and the Cubs, I think one of these teams is gonna go nuts, and the other team is gonna burn everybody. It's just a matter of which one is gonna do it. But yeah, Scherzer, man, it's going to be hard for me to get off Scherzer unless this Detroit game, unless the weather clears up, because then I might have some interest in Salazar for the salary relief. But like you said, Kennedy and who was the other guy? Lackey. These guys are interesting, but yeah, I don't have much to say about this slate, man. It's like,
yep.
Blah, blah. Well, let's move on to the main slate.
Let's do it.
We got Dan Straily of the Miami Marlins visiting Matt Andriese. Is it Andriese or Andriese? I feel like I never say it right.
I don't know. I would bet on Andriese, but I have no idea.
That guy. Oh, the Tampa Bay Rays. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, are you ready for Dan Straily Chalk Night?
I am not ready for Dan Straily Chalk Night.
I mean, I think that's what it's going to be. I mean, yeah. He's been decent this year. We saw a couple games ago his 14 strikeout performance. He didn't back it up necessarily in his last start. But we know Tampa Bay strikes out a lot. We know Tampa's a good park for pitching. This game obviously will play with no weather problems, so I would think Dan Straily will be the chalk here, and that's fine, I guess. And I would also have a lot of interest in Matt Andriese on the other side. Miami strikes out a lot too, and he's in the same good ballpark, and the pitching options are just atrocious on this slate. Yeah. So I have interest in Andriese too. But it's crazy, neither of these pitchers are really that good. Right. So if you wanted to stack on either side and kind of be like I'm going to stack against the chalk pitcher as a leverage play, I think that would be fine also.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think that and now Andres I don't have too much interest in just because I know don't get me wrong, he could strike out guys in the right matchup, but Miami's not exactly the team that I want to go after strikeouts for. But listen, on DraftKings, the pitching is that bad to where you have no choice. You have to consider him. But from a FanDuel perspective, I don't think you have to go there. Straily is going to be the chalk, and you're going to have to accept it. He's an underdog, but he's against the team that strikeouts the most in the league, and for the most part, what's supposedly considered a pitcher's ballpark. So Straley's going to be the chalk. My problem with guys like Straily, whenever you're a chalky pitcher and you're not an elite pitcher like a Kershaw, Syndergaard, Scherzer, etc. I feel like the chances of you blowing up are just ridiculous. So will I play Straily? I'm gonna play him a couple times, yeah, because he is in the best matchup, and I you don't want to be foolish and miss out on the boat because sometimes the chalk does come through. However, I will definitely have some raise stacks, especially when you consider the fact that I think Straley's having a much better year than Andres, and the matchup is better for Straily, and yet Andresi, whatever, is the favorite. So. Yeah, I think that I'll play a couple Straily lineups, but I'm definitely gonna have me some raise stacks because I could totally see these guys blow this Straily guy up, and I don't know where this came from Straily. All of a sudden this year he's like kind of good, and but I tell you what, a guy like him is chalk. I go running, so yeah, he could have a good game, but I think in my case, I'm not crazy about the slate. I'm not gonna play that heavy anyway, and I'm gonna have some raise hedges for show. You know what I'm saying?
For show. Do you think Dan Straily knows that it's going to be Dan Straily chalk day at DFS tomorrow?
Of course, absolutely, he knows.
Somebody notifies him.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. He's got his coach tells him, his GM.
Yeah.
His GM tells him, bro. He's like, bro, you got a salary bump if you come through as the chalk.
Yeah, it's big time.
Yeah, big time. Oh yeah. All right, so we were supposed to have Ubaldo pitching for the Orioles, but I know he came in for relief when Gausman got kicked out or ejected for hitting a guy with a curveball, which is kind of ridiculous. People get a little sensitive over in Boston. But so I see Tyler Wilson, according to Fantasy Labs, going up against Kyle Kendrick. Here we go, a name we haven't heard in a while, of the Boston Red Sox. Go ahead, what are we doing here, Matt?
I'm checking out Tyler Wilson right now. He looks like he stinks, and Kyle Kendrick, who we haven't seen in a long time, we know he stinks too. And the weather looks nice in this game, and we know Fenway's a hitter's park, and it looks like the wind's going to be blowing out a little over the Monsters. So, yeah, I love all the bats in this game. So, I mean, I think it's just pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, there's not much else to really say. Here's your chalk game for hitters.
Yep.
The chalk is going to be play Straily at 8, whatever his price is on your site. Play Straily, load up on these games. That's going to be the chalk way. Which is why I think going the Rays route could be interesting to you because I don't think Straley's upside is ridiculous that you can't find it from somewhere else. It's not going to be easy to find, but you can find it from at least one other pitcher or maybe even two. So. I'm gonna play a little bit of Straily as like a hedge play. To me though, I'm gonna load up on these Rays bats and looking at this Boston. Listen, I'm gonna have some exposure to this game. I'm not gonna fade it completely. That would just be foolish. But I think there's another stack somewhere on the line that's gonna do better than at least one of these teams. So yeah, this is gonna be your chalk. But it's a small slate, so you're gonna be mindful of that. I'm not saying don't play these guys. I'm just saying be mindful of the fact on a shorter slate you see what your chalk is gonna be here. With that said, I'm definitely going to have some exposure to these bats. I'm not going to hide from it for sure. Zach Wheeler going back home to Atlanta. The New York Mets visit Jaime Garcia, the lefty from the Atlanta Braves. Looks like we have a little bit of weather concerns here. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, this game has a chance to rain out, but if I was betting now, I would say it plays. So I think we should assume at this hour that it does, but like I said earlier, definitely to be checking all the way up to lock, especially in Atlanta where thunderstorms can come out of nowhere. They should have a good feel, right close to lock.
Yeah.
But yeah, breaking down the game, I don't like Zach Wheeler that much just because, Atlanta's been pretty darn good, and this ballpark seems pretty good for hitting. And I don't really think I want to attack Atlanta with marginal pitchers, not because they're the best lineup in the world, but they just don't strike out very much. And I feel some bad mojo with the Mets pitchers right now, so I kind of want to stay away from Wheeler. I know you like Wheeler, the homer that you are. So yeah. On the other side, I do actually like Jaime Garcia a little bit, just because we know the Mets struggle against lefties a little bit, and then the pitching's just terrible on the slate. But of course, it makes me very nervous to play Jaime because his control hasn't been very good this year, and his strikeout rate's not very good. So if I was ranking him, I would put him behind the two pitchers in Tampa Bay, and then behind one of the ones that's about to come up.
Yeah, I think Jaime's okay, and even as a homer Met fan, I think the Mets do strike out a lot. They struggle against lefties. I do be mindful. Wilmer Flores is back. Here's a nice little one-off if you don't want to stack against the Braves. But I don't mind the Mets offense here. They're going to play some of these guys like Lagares should see some time, TJ Rivera. So they have a couple righties that aren't great. I don't know if I'm going to go crazy and stack the Mets because the weather's not that great. It's kind of wind looks like it's kind of blowing in a little bit. But I wouldn't ignore them completely. They still got a high projected run total. I love Wheeler, man, in this spot. Do I think Wheeler's going to have like 20 strikeouts? No. But do I think Wheeler can outperform Straily? A chalky Straily? Yeah, I think he could. Normally, would I like him? No. His walks were down. They're starting to get back up after his last start, but he struggles against lefty, and I'm looking here, the wind's blowing in from right, so that helps him a little bit. He's pretty good against righties, and most of the Braves are righties. You're right, they don't strike out typically. But Wheeler's going to be going. He's from Atlanta, man. He's from Georgia. Every time he goes back here, he gets hyped up. I'm not saying he plays well every time, but he gets hyped up. The family comes out to see him. And so far, I'm looking for a guy that I really like that could be sneaky aside from the obvious Chuck Straily. And I think I found my guy, man. I'm telling you. I think I like Wheels, man.
Man, you are such a homer.
Oh, no, man. I'm telling you. Yo, Wheeler is going to be good again. He's going to be good. His velocity's there. His control is better than it ever was. He's eventually going to figure this out. And, if the weather's not great for hitting, that means it must be okay for pitching. So I'm telling you, man, I like Wheels. I smell a bet coming.
Do you think Matt Harvey's going to be good again?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, no. I would love it if he did. I mean, I don't understand with Harvey. His velocity's there, so I don't understand. I guess his location.
He's a head case,
yeah,
man.
He's a head case.
Just
You're
a
right.
head
You're
case.
100% right. He lets it get into his head, and that's forget about it. You're right. You figured it out. You figured out all the Mets need to hire you. They need to hire you as Harvey's personal guy. Maybe you could shame him every day. Shame him into pitching well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they need a sports psychologist in the worst way.
Just gonna go up there. Harvey's not good, so you play guys against Harvey.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's not that complicated.
It is
just
simple, yeah.
find the pitchers that aren't good and just put all the best players from the other team in your lineup. It's not as complicated as everybody thinks that it is.
It's just that simple. Man,
Yep.
We are going to have a quick podcast because we have one game left, and we're just over the half-hour mark. So we'll have some time to BS a little about some game theory and have a little fun before Dong Watch, but it's going to be a quick night.
Yep.
All right, we got Alex Meyer of the Los Angeles Angels.
Of Anaheim.
Yes, sir. Visiting Ariel Miranda, the lefty from the Seattle Mariners. Go ahead, Matt.
I found my guy. I like Miranda here. The Angels stink, and Miranda's been decent this year, and I think he'll be super low owned. Because for a small slate, he'll be low owned.
Oh, he'll be low owned. He'll definitely be low owned.
Yeah, and hey, he put up 7 strikeouts against Cleveland in his last start. He had a really good start at home against Miami, 27 DraftKings points. So like I said, even though the Angels don't strike out that much, they're just not very good. And it's going to be a cold night in Seattle. So I like Miranda a lot. And then on the other side, you can't play Alex Meyer. He's not going to pitch more than 4 or 5 innings and doesn't strike people out, and he's not good, and the Mariners are better, blah, 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 blah. So I have a decent amount of interest in the Mariners here.
Man, Miranda got blown up by the Oakland Athletics. I know he had a decent game against Cleveland, but he got blown up by the Oakland Athletics, dude. 3 innings, 7 hits, 3 strikeouts. I'll give him that. But 4 earned runs, man. Listen, you're getting on me being a homer about Wheeler, and you're going to talk about Ariel Miranda. Come on, man.
I'm a reverse homer. That's why. They're playing my team who stinks. If he can somehow avoid giving up a Mike Trout home run, he's gonna do good. So I wish this Zach Wheeler game was sure to play, but we should just have a bet anyways, and I'll take Miranda, and you can have Wheeler.
All right, we can do it. I'm totally in. I want Wheeler. More FanDuel points. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
All right, more FanDuel points. Zach Wheeler or Miranda. Um, I'm in. I'm in. I'm
All right,
totally in, dude.
all right.
I love it.
Wheeler has to pitch, obviously.
Yeah, obviously Wheeler has to pitch. Yeah, yeah. We're not gonna count it if his game is canceled or anything
Yep.
like that. So let's talk a little. We talked a little about the early slate, and let's talk now. I've noticed one thing for sure, Matt. Doing these podcasts with you for a while now, like I'm definitely more the pessimist on the slates. Like I'm always like, oh, the slate's ugly, and you're always the optimist. You're always, the slate's not so bad. It's not so bad. So
I just love to play. You know what I mean? Just whatever the slate it is, good, bad, or indifferent. I just try to break it down and just do the best I can. And I'm just excited to watch the games and sweat it out. I mean, I'm a huge degenerate and I love DFS, so I just try to make the best of it. And if it's hard for us, then it's going to be hard for everybody.
that's a good point.
So it's really just not that big of a deal. It's just just think about what you want to do, think about the weather, think about which games they're going to play, what you want to play, what you want to do. It's just if like I said, if everybody hates the pitching, then it's the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's definitely a good point.
Yeah, you just figure it out.
Dude, I think fading Straily has got to be the play. I mean, listen, I know he's been well, and I've played him a couple times this year. It's just when you know he's going to be that popular. A guy like Dan, we're not talking about a Kershaw. We're not talking about a Madison Bumgarner. We're talking about Dan Straily. And in a strikeout matchup, everybody's going to go there. It's no secret. It's no secret the Rays strike out a ton. I just feel like this is like the spot where like you just load up on the Rays bats. You completely leverage against these guys. You play some Zach Wheeler. You become a Met fan. and then you just win all the money. That's what I'm thinking.
So let me ask you this question on this late slate.
Yeah.
If you're on DraftKings, you're pitching Wheeler, who is your second pitcher?
Oh wow.
You don't like Andres. You don't like Miranda.
Well, I think I like
Straily.
Andres better than Miranda. I think I like Andres better than Miranda. And to be honest, I said that I wouldn't mind Jaime either. I'm not too big on the Met. I'm not. Well, I kind of like the Mets bats, but at the same time, like I still think Jaime could get some strikeouts. I just can't get into Miranda, man. He's gonna face this entirely right-handed lineup of the Angels. I know the one thing he has going for him is the ballpark. It's Safeco's a big field. He's got that going for him for sure. I'll definitely admit that. But I mean, I know Albert Pujols is old, man, but have some faith in your boy.
There's nothing that I hate Albert Pujols. He's on my favorite team, but I just like it's like he hits a weak ground ball to the shortstop that should be a tough play,
Right.
and the shortstop just takes a half hour to field it and throw because he knows that Albert's not only the slowest player in the league, but he doesn't even run hard.
Trying. He's not gonna pull
And
it
just drives me insane. It's like we're paying you infinity dollars for some reason until you're 50 years old. It's like at least you can run hard on a ground ball.
Yeah.
It just drives me nuts, and it's just I don't know to pay that much money for that guy, and then we're still paying Josh Hamilton $1 million, Jillian. It's just mistake after mistake. I am happy their new GM that they have. I think is smart, and I think he's going to do a good job. So I'm more optimistic about the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel for these Angels. I mean, you got Mike Trout. I mean, you have Mike Trout. You're on the right track. So, don't lose him, and I think you'll figure it out eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if they lose him, nobody's showing up to the game. It's going to be
forget about it. But yeah, so I think we both agree that Baltimore and Boston are going to be your chalky stacks, and I'm not telling anybody to fade them straight up. I'm not. I just think that you might want to work in another stack somewhere along the lines because everybody's going to be on this. No matter which way you stack it, it's probably going to be a popular way to go. So you're going to have to differentiate yourself elsewhere. Something me and Matt always talk about. You could play the chalk and you could live with it. That's fine. But if you're going to do that, you got to differentiate elsewhere. And even if you don't do that, even if you win, you're going to win and tie with like a million other people. So you got to find a way to get funky. So you're going to have to either play Wheeler or you're going to have to play Miranda or you're going to have to play Andres or you're going to have to stack up the Rays or one of these other crazy teams. But yeah, That's pretty much it. It's a 5-game slate. You got anything to add, or should we hop on to the Down Watch?
We can hop on to the Dong Watch. Let's do it.
All
I
right.
want to go. Hold on. Let me pull up the all-day slate so I have all the options in front of me so I can just go all chalk and just pick right from the top.
I'm with you.
All right. I'm ready.
All right, man. Go ahead.
I'm going to take Mike Trout.
You all this talk about you like Miranda, and the first pick is Mike Trout.
I like Mike Trout. I mean, I like Miranda in the spot, but Mike Trout's the best baseball player in the world facing, a weak lefty. I just, whatever.
I got you. I'm gonna go with Bryce Harper, coming right back at you. And
that was my next pick.
I'll go with Wilmer Flores. I think he comes back in a big way against Jaime.
Okay.
You get 2 here.
Yep. I get 2. I have all these rain problems.
The rain problems.
Oh, we didn't even talk about this Milwaukee-St. Louis game, which is going to rain out for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That game's raining out.
Yeah. I just figured it wasn't going to play. You think it's definitely raining out, or should we go over it real quick?
I mean, I think it's like 80 or 90% rained out.
Oh, wow.
And then also on top of that, it rained like 10 inches there today, and they have flooding problems. So there's all kinds of problems. But if it does play, we like the pitchers. Wainwright was good against Milwaukee last time. Milwaukee strikes out a decent bit. The wind looks to be blowing in. It looks to be cold. And then Chase Anderson, if you're really desperate against the St. Louis lineup, that's not very good.
If you're really desperate, that's the key phrase.
Yeah.
All right.
So just go Manny Machado and Hanley Ramirez.
All right. So I got one more to pick from. I'm gonna go. Got to get my thinking cap on here. I think I'm gonna go with. Give me some. How about pick a Ray here? I think. Give me some Corey Dickerson. Yeah.
Okay.
Give me some Corey Dickerson. Well, this was probably one of the quickest pods we have in a while. It's kind of refreshing. You got 2 people on. We had a third guest, but we had some technical difficulties, so hopefully we'll get him back on at some point. But it was a lot of fun, man, as always, talking about 2 slates. They're both interesting. They're both, you have some options, but they're not great options. So it should be a fun tournament slate, both of them, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, please be on top of the weather. Do not get caught with zeros. Yeah. And think about the weather. I want people to not only look at the game times, but some of these games that are iffy, look a few hours ahead of the game, especially these early games like the Cubs game. Don't be scared off it if it looks like it's going to rain early on, but it looks clear later in the day. You could maybe get a Cubs stack low owned because people are afraid of the weather. So really, dig in and see what's likely to happen.
I think that's a phenomenal point. Use the weather to your advantage. It's one of the benefits of baseball is you have these different variables. So if your game's outdoors, know that. If your game has a roof, which is my biggest problem, I got to know that. So I guess I got Matt on the pod to make sure I'm not talking about games with roofs. But yeah, it's a great point, Matt. Also, don't forget to check out your Daily Roto Sharks cheat sheets. These are the kind of slates where you really, really need. You always want them. You always need them. They always help. These are the kind of slates where you really need them because you're going to have to rely on these numbers a little bit here to talk you in or talk you off plays that you wouldn't normally play. You're going to have to play some guys you're not comfortable with, and those cheat sheets can kind of help you justify that if they're rated highly or if you just see something in their statistics you like. They're filled with massive statistics, everything you might need from every other source all in one spot for you. So get your cheat sheets, sign up for them. Do me a favor, help the podcast out by clicking the link in the description and signing up right away. Listen, if you're watching on YouTube, click that thumbs up, that like button. It means a lot to us. Subscribe to the channel. We are growing. We're coming up on 300. We want to surpass that with no problem. So subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Podbean, give us a follow. If you're listening on iTunes, subscribe to the channel and also leave us some positive reviews. We want to bump up those iTunes charts. We want to get into the eyes of the masses or the ears of the masses if it's iTunes. So do us a favor and leave us some reviews. Guys, it was fun. Matt, always a pleasure having you on, man. We should have an interesting guest tomorrow. We'll see. I don't want to give it away just in case. I don't want to get anybody hopes up. But we should have an interesting guest. But definitely a fun pod, Matt. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely. I love doing it.
All right, guys. For Matt, for myself, as always, good luck.
Peace.